Good morning, students. In this class, we'll understand what is JList component. Okay, a JList component is like a list of items. You can select one or more items from that list. It is like a menu of your hotel. So you can select one or more items to order. So in the same way here, you can select one or more items to perform any operation. Fine. And it is supporting one constructor that is called as JList. Object is the object and array of items. So this array of item will be having all the items of your list. And it supports two models: list model, list selection model. Basically, list model is used to understand how to access list of data, and list selection model will help you to understand how many items are selected from the list. Okay, and it supports normally without the help of JScrollPan, but we have, it is a good practice to include your JList inside JScrollPan, because if your list is very big, if it is not fitting in the window, so you can make use of the scroll option using JScrollPan. Fine. And whenever you select any item in the list, it is going to be handled by list selection interface. This interface will be registered with that particular source, the list, and whenever you select any item, this void value changed method will be called. It is same as action performed in event listener. For normal events generated by buttons, all those things will be handled by action listener, and the method is action performed. But here the interface is list selection interface, list selection listener, and the method is value changed. It is same as your action performed, but here it is it is called as value changed. Fine. And inside this method you can do whatever operation you want to do after handling that event, while handling that particular event. Okay. And this LE is a reference to the object that generated the event. So which object has generated the event, that is the reference to that particular object. And both the list selection event and list selection listener are packaged in Java x.swing.event. So it is compulsory to import this particular package when you're working with list selection event. Fine. And there is one method which is supported by JList, that is set selection mode. So it is basically help you to change the mode of selection. Okay, so what are the three options? Single selection, single interval selection, multiple interval selection. Single selection is nothing but selecting a single item, selecting a single item from the list. And single interval selection is nothing but you are selecting the range of items, like how you use control or shift keys to select any items on the screen. Okay, so if you want to select 4 to 5 folders from the my computer in or desktop, you want to select 3 to 4 folders, how do you select? By making use of control or shift. So in the same way, using single selection, you can select a range of items. Okay, if you are having 100 items and if you want to select 1 to 10, you can select using single selection item. Sorry, single interval selection mode you have to give. Single selection means selecting only one item. What is multiple interval selection? When you have to select multiple interval items, like 1 to 10 you have to select, and 30 to 40, and 70 to 60, sorry, 60 to 70. So when you have to select multiple interval selected items, then you go with multiple interval selection. Fine. And there is one, sorry, yeah, there is one more method. There are two methods which are supported by JList, that is get selected index, get selected value. So get selected, basically whatever list of items you are storing in the JList, or those items are stored in array. Okay, so every array element will be having index value. So if, when you have to return the index value of that particular JList item, then you have to use the method get selected index. Okay, so when you have to use the selected value instead of the index, then you have to use the method get selected value. When you have not selected any item, it returns 0. When you have selected any item, okay, I'm sorry, starting from the first index, first index is always 0. When by default, when you open the list and when you run this method, is going to return 0, and if you have not selected any item, then it's going to return -1. Fine. And get selected value also works same. If you have selected any item, so it's going to return that particular value. If you have not selected, it's going to return null, because the return type is object. Fine. Let us see how this how we can implement this in Java program. Fine. Fine. Okay, this is the demo of the JList. Before going into the program, let us see how you can make use of this in J form. So here you are able to see list. So list is nothing but your JList. Are you able to see? It is having one or more items where you can add the items. Fine, see here, model is item 1, item 2, item 3. You can remove that. You can give I1. See, you can modify the content. You can content to be displayed on the list. I1, I2, I3. I have given I1, I2, I3. If you want, you can give the name of the items. Fine. So this is how you can make use of JList in your program. So let us go to your program and see how it is working. Fine. See, as I said before, it is making use of single dimensional array, where every array value will be having index numbers. Okay. So these are the items of the list which we have given in double quotes. And we are going to execute this particular method. Fine. We are having a layout, and after that we are creating object of JList. We have already initialized it in the beginning. JList, JList, JLabel, JScrollPane. Okay. And why we are making use of scroll pane? For whichever component, whenever you want to provide the scroll bar, okay, inside that particular component, then you have to include that component inside your JScroll pane. Fine. Now let us go to the program, the method. Fine. We are creating the object of JList. The first item is cities. Okay. So what is cities? City is the array. As we understood now, so we have to pass the array which is having all the items as the parameter to your JList. Fine. And we are creating set select. We are calling the method set selection mode, and we are passing single selection. Single selection means what? We saw three various selection modes. That is single selection and single interval selection, multiple interval selection. Single selection means selecting single item. Single interval selection means what? Selecting a range, single range. That is, if you want to select 20 to 30, when you are having the list from 1 to 100, then we go with single interval selection. But when you have to select multiple range of this interval items, for example, we are having 1 to 100 list, and you want to select 20 to 30 and 50 to 60, then you have to give the option here multiple interval selection. Fine. And J's scroll pane, we are creating the object of J scroll pane, and you have to understand how to embed your JList inside J scroll pane. You have to pass the object of JList to the J scroll pane. So in that case, it is going to provide scroll bar to your JList. Fine. And J scroll pane dot set preferred size, we are setting the dimension for your scroll pane. And after that, J label, we are creating a J label, and we are passing the label name as choose a city. And after that, see, this is what we are calling handling the event. Basically, this complete thing is to register your JList with list selection listener. Usually we make use of action listener, but here for list we are using different listener interface. That is list selection listener, and value changed is the method used instead of action performed. In this case, for button, for text field, we make use of action performed method and event listener. Okay. event the listener interface is different for that, but here this is the method we are using, value changed instead of action performed. Fine. And we are creating the integer value index JList dot get selected index. So whatever item you are selecting in the JList, so it is going to return that index and store that index value in id x. When id x is not equal to -1, when it is equal to -1, it means that you have not selected any item. When it is not equal to -1 means you have selected any item. So it is going to return the current selection cities of that particular index. Cities is an array, so you are going to read any item among these whenever user has selected based upon the index number. Okay. Else we are displaying that again the label value will be choose a city. Okay, it means you have not selected any item, so it's better to, it is asking you to select any item. So we have to add the scroll pin and j label to the your container, that is content pin. That's why we are using this add method. Let us execute and see. Shift F6. It is still running. Yeah, now we got the output. Let us see the output. Yes, this is the output of that program which we understood just now. So this is the JList, and as we have added your JList into J scroll pane, it is providing you scroll bar. Otherwise, scroll bar will not be visible. Okay. So and here this is the label. So whenever you choose any city, it is going to tell current selection New York. Sorry, New York. So how you're able to access that particular data? If you select Chicago, so you, it's going to display correct selection is Chicago. How? Based, because it is an array of items, so you are retrieving the index value of the item selected and you are passing that index value into array and you are trying to display that on the screen. Understanding? That's how JList is working. Fine. If you select Tokyo, it's going to say current selection is Tokyo. Fine. Okay, that's all about JList.